Hi, I'm Elan Garfias, voice of Cody Burns in Transformers Rescue Bots, Pepe and Handy Manny, Pinocchio in Kinect Disneyland Adventures, Commander Nemex in Miles from Tomorrowland, and many more characters over the years. I've done ADR for projects like Spider-Man, Percy Jackson, X-Men, and most recently Shadow and Bone. You are watching In Conversation with Embers of Fangirl, also known as ATF. Hope you enjoy. Roll out.
Hi guys, Amber here. Welcome back to another episode of In Conversation with ATF. Today, my guest is a voice actor who's been the voice of Cody Burns in Transformers Rescue Bots, Pinocchio in Kinect Disneyland Adventures, which I recently downloaded for my Xbox One, but I have not yet had the chance to play it, Pepe in Handy Manny, and Commander is it Nemex or Nemex?
Nemex.
Nemex in Miles from Tomorrow. And also my guest has done tons of ADR for different films like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Percy Jackson, and many more. My guest is none other than Elan Garfias.
Hi, great to be here.
You're welcome.
No, that was a perfect introduction.
Did I say your name right?
Elan Garfias, yeah.
Elan, yeah. I forget so easily, so yeah. Elan Garfias. Yes! The one and only is here in this Zoom call with me. So yes, thank you so much for agreeing to an interview with me.
Of course. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for reaching out.
You're welcome. Yeah. I just love your roles as like Cody Burns on Rescue Bots and stuff. So I'd like to sort of start out by talking about let's talk about Rescue Bots first. So what were the recording sessions for Rescue Bots like? Because I know you had a lot of great people you had.
Sure. Yeah, so because I was so young, I started off, I was in middle school when I was recording this. So my schedule was a bit different for them. Normally, the rest of the cast would record as kind of one unit. And occasionally, if I, didn't have school that day, I would manage to join them because those sessions last a long time. But normally, I would just record by myself or with Diamond White. Occasionally, they would throw in one other person with me, but I got to get a pretty good intimate relationship with the director because of that. Because most of the time, it was just her and I. And
I think it was Ginny McSwain who were.
Ginny McSwain, yeah. So it was usually just Ginny and I, and occasionally Diamond, and then the rest of the people in the booth. So my recording experience, I would say, was pretty different from the rest of the cast.
Wow, it must have been fun though, because I mean, if you see how popular the show was, I mean, half the cast went to BotCon one year, and you all did a Rescue Bots panel. What was that like? Was that your first con appearance?
What?
Was that your first convention appearance?
It was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was. So I had no idea what to expect. It was nice because some of us took the train down there together, which was just like a nice, pleasant ride, I guess. And most of these people have been doing this for a while. Although there were a couple of us who, we were kind of new to this. I wasn't sure what to make of it. I just kind of tried to answer the questions as best I could. I know there's like panel decorum that I wasn't really sure about that they all knew. But it was a really good experience. It wasn't, as scary as I was expecting.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. And yeah, it must have been just great just to like do a script reading. Did you sign autographs afterwards?
I did.
Oh, wow. How many people would you say came for your autograph?
I have no idea. We had a lot. We did autographs. We did pictures.
Wow.
Some people just wanted to come up and like chat, I guess. So we did a lot of that too. Some people brought like fan art that they had made. That's probably the coolest part.
Wow. That must have been, I was going to say that must have been quite cool because you know how Rescue Bots is usually aimed at a more preschool audience. You've got like adult fans of the show as well, which is kind of cool.
Well, I think that was really informative for me because I had no idea who was watching this necessarily. Obviously, I told people I knew, to watch it. And I said, if you have kids, definitely show it to them. But yeah, when we were there, it's not like little kids coming, it's adults coming. So that was really awesome to see. And not just Americans too. I think that was kind of the biggest trip for me. I met someone who had come from Argentina for the convention.
Wow.
Love Rescue Bots. Yeah, there was a pair who had come from Japan too, and they wanted me to say Noble, and like that just made their day. So like, and then that made my day. But I had no idea that it had the international reach that it had.
I don't think it aired in the UK. It is on Netflix. I know season 1's on Netflix in the UK, but to my knowledge, I don't think it's aired.
Is it still on Netflix there?
UK Netflix, yes.
Oh wow, okay.
It's only season 1 though, so.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, very interesting.
How did you watch it?
How do I watch it? I watch it through Netflix, and also I watch because I think they upload the Transformers channel uploads occasional episodes to YouTube, so I just watch it through there.
Very cool.
Yeah, indeed. And that brings on to my another question I've been dying to ask you. So in the series, you know how everyone has like their partners, like Charlie Burns has Chase, and then I can't remember. Oh yeah, Danny has Blades.
Yeah.
I can't remember who Boulder's with. Oh,
Boulder's with Graham.
Graham.
Yeah.
And then Cade is with Heatwave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I knew it. My memory is actually good once. And of course, Cody Burns was occasionally with Optimus Prime. So what was it like? Obviously, like, what do you think the relationship with Cody and Optimus Prime was like in the show?
That's an interesting question. I had never thought of like Optimus as being Cody's bot. Because Cody's the kind of the go-between. So in a sense, they're all his bots, even though he doesn't get to ride in them. But yeah, no, that's very interesting with Optimus Prime. I suppose like what brings them together is almost a certain neutrality, in that Optimus can stand. He's the leader of the Autobots, but he can almost stand apart from them because he's kind of emblematic for the Transformer, like what that is in general. He's the emblematic Cybertronian. And I think Cody is like the emblematic Griffin Rockian.
Yeah.
So there's a really sweet like go-between relationship, and there's a trust that Optimus places in Cody that to me always stood in for having a bot. It's having that like special relationship. It's almost it's like an oversight role.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I know you didn't do any did you not do any sessions with Peter at all or not?
I think I did one.
Well, apart from that one, Elan did not do any sessions with. Well, they brought him back as Optimus, Mr. Peter Cullen. He's not here right now, but I wish he was. But yes, so it was like Elan talking to Peter. Like, I know you didn't record together, but how cool was it that had you heard of Peter before he started doing Rescue Bot?
Had I heard of Peter? I mean, no, but I knew his work, definitely.
Yeah, of course. That's all I meant.
Kind of in the same way that you say, who's Tom Kenny? I don't know, who's SpongeBob? Yeah, of course. It's that kind of relationship. I don't know if this is like, I'm really showing my fanboy here, but I had an Optimus Prime comforter on my bed for the longest time. I had an Optimus Prime mask as a kid.
Oh.
I was really into, I had like a few action figures too. So when I met him, I didn't know who he was. I was like, okay, hi, nice to meet you. And then they said, that's Optimus Prime. And I said, no way. That's crazy. So yeah, it's probably better that they told me that afterwards, because I would not have been able to function for that if they told me.
So sweet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Did you ever get any photos together or not?
I don't think so. I don't think we did, unfortunately.
Hey, if it makes you feel any better, I'm seeing Peter this October in Scotland. I will tell him that I spoke to you, and I have to tell him you have to come on my podcast.
Sure, give my best.
Will do. I will tell him he has to come on my podcast, because by then I probably have interviewed tons more people, and then I'm like, yes, you've got to come on now. Yeah, you've got to be brought on. Yeah, it's like you're just in like a massive claw machine. You're just trying to see who to go for next, and
you're that name. Yeah,
Frank and Peter, they just slip, but then like some voices you just get straight away. So yeah, that is so cool. So I'm personally jealous, because like Rescue Bots is such a good show, and it's got such a good cast as well. How did you get on with like the rest of the cast, like Jason Marsden, Steve Bloom?
Very well.
Douglas.
Very well. There was, I think, a bit of a degree of separation just because of the age. So like, yeah, if they would go out and do something, I wouldn't always, be able to go out with them and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I mean, definitely when we recorded, that was always a super fun time. Where I personally got like the most experience with them was just in the waiting room, because sometimes one of them would go in or two of them would go in at a time, and then I would go in afterwards. So just getting to chat with them was always great. And I think what I really appreciated is like, they never talked down to me. They never treated me like a child. And I really respected that. And I think that's just because, I wasn't meeting them as I wasn't just meeting them on the street, you know, I was meeting them as colleagues. I was meeting them as fellow actors, and we were all there to do the same thing. And I think they really honored that, which feels great when you're like 12 or 13 and you're working with 40-year-olds and stuff, and they're treating you like one of their own. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, of course, I've only had one acting role myself, and that's the helicopter ride you can't really see there. But yeah, there probably won't be a lot more left because obviously the company's gone into administration. There's only one in the UK, only one helicopter. So
It's gonna become collectible then.
Look, I'm looking for work. I've made a little voice reel, sending it out to different people just to see what happens. Really,
sure.
I'm just hoping I get some work because it'd be great to get into cartoons. Because the UK voiceover industry isn't really that big. I'd say it's more or less dubbing, you know, just like bringing it over, dubbing it, or getting some famous UK actors whenever like on camera and stuff like that. Let's say David Tennant or something like that. Just to dub in. We don't have Torres Strongs or Frank Welkers or Peter Cullen, Steve Blooms, Maurice the Marshes. Yeah. So
is it also? I'd imagine is it hard to like find work outside of London?
Yes, it pretty much is. Pretty much everywhere you have to live in the capital to get work. I mean, I know these sort of branded theatre schools, and they have branches all up and down the country, but the students who mainly get work are based in like the Croydon, Islington, London, Greater London area, which is quite unfair to be there. It's very rare that anyone outside of London gets work. The second biggest hub for work would have to be in Manchester because that's where Media City UK is.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so
yeah.
So I suppose I don't mind traveling down to London or anything, but if of course it doesn't cost me anything, of course if they pay for like the travel expenses or anything like that.
always.
Oh yeah, I only do it if that, and also if they pay for food. So, also, I forgot to say this. I actually saw some Rescue Bots toys the other day, like I think it was like this toy shop I went to. I can't remember the name of it.
Okay.
I nearly got one, right? Okay, it was Blades, but I nearly got one. But because of my OCD, I have to have specific Transformers toys from specific brands.
Okay.
So, I mean, like different shows, like, I don't know, let's say Prime, Rescue Bots. But these ones were from the new Rescue Bots Academy, which does not use the same voice cast. It has an on-union voice cast. I'm like... Yep. Nah, it doesn't really have the voice of my favorite people, so I'm just gonna stick to
I appreciate the loyalty. We all do. Yeah, that was I think they record that in Ireland or something. I didn't quite
they use a bunch of New York actors for like Cyberverse, the new War for Cybertron series.
Okay. Well, yeah, I remember I started to see a couple of years ago. I mean, even while Rescue Bots was still on, the one I was on, some of the toys had like characters that none of us had heard of that were never featured in any of the episodes, and I wonder if they like recycled those into kind of the new series. But yeah, I appreciate the loyalty.
You're welcome. Let's talk about another topic. Let's talk about your time on Handy Manny.
Sure. So we're going way back here.
Oh yeah. Okay. How many years? How many years was that?
I was 7 or 8 when I did that.
About 2008ish, around that time.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Wow. So yes, I grew up watching Handy Manny because obviously it aired on Disney Channel over here, Playhouse Disney. Obviously everything's now moved to streaming, Disney Plus and stuff like that. So who exactly was your character in Handy Manny? Because I only remember watching a handful of episodes.
Sure. So I was Pepe. I was Manny's nephew, essentially.
Oh. Yeah. Wow. So what were recording sessions for that like? Did you go to Disney? Did you go to...
No, that was also in Burbank. It was at a place called Salami Studios.
Salami. They record most of the Scooby-Doos there. They have a big cutout of Shaggy and Scooby in the lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, all of these places are pretty close to each other. I guess, although the exception would be Rescue Bots. I was over in Studio City, which isn't too far away from Burbank. It's a hop, skip, and a jump. But yeah, Salami Studios. So that was a couple episodes with that show. Actually, I did get to record with the whole cast, and that was the first time I met Tom Kinney.
Oh yeah,
a very impressionable little 8-9-year-old. So like that was awesome. And I kind of had a rule, so I wasn't allowed to eat like sugary cereals growing up unless I was on set. So I would always be happy to go for that shoot because I could have like Fruit Loops and stuff.
Oh wow!
And like Cocoa Puffs and everything. So I was always like sugared up right before I went into those sessions. And I'd be bouncing off the walls and stuff, but it was good for that character because I'm playing a kid.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's probably the first time that I did like a full cast recording with adults. And again, even at that age, like they treated me like an actor, which makes all the difference. Because if you're treated like a kid, and people are annoyed with you, you're probably going to be annoying and behave like a kid. Yeah, that was a really good experience. Not one I remember super well at this point. But yeah, I enjoyed that as well a lot.
Wow, that's so cool. Because obviously you recorded with a ton of great people. You had Tom Kenny, Nika Futterman, Carlos Alazraki, and a few others. I can't remember.
Valderrama too on that one.
Oh yeah, Fred Stoller was on it as well.
Yeah.
Legend.
Yeah.
So good. Go ahead.
I was just gonna add, especially with that show, because that's a very cartoony cartoon. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And as a kid, like you're sitting next to that, you're surrounded by people like not just acting, doing voices, doing weird voices, doing funky stuff. Like you feel like you're in a show almost when you're at that age. You feel like you're fully immersed in it, and that is like so cool, especially at that age.
Of course. Oh yes, I think D. Bradley Baker was in it as well. Do you ever remember meeting him?
I have met him a couple times, yeah. And I was because he did the Clone Wars, right? He was all the clones and stuff.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, this was another thing I didn't realize it. This is because again, like when you're like that young, you don't know what IMDb is, right? So like I met him and I was like, okay, hi. And then my mom goes like, that's the guy that does the clones. I'm like, no. So again, I'm glad she told me that afterwards and not before, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to function.
That reminds me of a similar story, right? I was in this pub in like Kennington, which is like South London, after this film festival I'd been to. Well, what originally happened was I was at a comic convention. I was at Comic-Con meeting Tara Strong, and I was in the queue, and my friend goes, oh yeah, we're doing an awards ceremony tonight. We're doing the film festival, but the woman who was presenting one of our awards has been taken ill. Would you mind getting to Kennington in about 3 hours to present this award for us? I'm like, yes. So I had to literally run back to the hotel, get changed, get the tube to Kennington, and then I got there, and then obviously I went to the pub afterwards with everyone because drinks on the house. So I met this one man. His name was Tom, and he was lovely. So I spoke to him, and my sister rang me later, and she's like, that's Tom Reid Wilson from Celebs Go Dating. I'm like, wait, what? And I looked him up, and I didn't realize how famous he was until I looked him up. I was like, oh my gosh. I was starstruck. I was like, wow. You don't know how, like, I didn't even know, I couldn't even tell if he was famous. I thought it was just like a theatre performer, but no, actually on the television. That's crazy.
I had the same thing happen to me when I met Tara Strong for the first time.
Oh, you met Tara as well?
I have. I've worked with her a couple of times, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we did. We worked together on Chowder.
Oh, yeah, you did Chowder as well, didn't you?
Yeah, and I was around that age. I was like when Ben 10 was really big. Like, oh, that's her. Well, yeah. So yeah, that was a really fun experience. That was just a fun shoot in general. Like that's a really fun place to record, just in terms of like the decor and everything.
Yeah. Have you ever met Corey Burton?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, he was on Clone Wars. He was Count Dooku and Cad Bane.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I just sort of kind of just presumed because obviously you've been to more places than I have, to be fair.
It helps when they're all like a street down, like Cartoon Network and Nick. They're like a bridge, literally a bridge across from each other.
Are they?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
It makes everything a lot easier. Yeah, Burbank's always hopping with that sort of stuff.
Oh wow, that's so cool. Just a quick side question: have you ever been to England before?
I have been to England.
Have you?
I have, yeah. When I was a big Anglophile as a kid. So how old was I? I was 13.
Okay.
When I went for the first time, I went with my mom for like a week. We went to London and we went to Cambridge. So that was really cool. I just wanted to see like history museums, and that's like really my thing. And I had dreamt about going there. I'd always read about it. I got into like English TE at a really young age, so that just enhanced the aesthetic for me. And then I was actually in Somerset. Am I saying it right? Somerset?
Yeah, Somerset.
Yeah. What was that? 2 years ago. 2 summers ago.
Oh wow.
For like a Latin intensive camp. And that was kind of my first time, I guess, being around English people, because the first time it was my mom and I were a couple of tourists. But that was a really cool experience. And I think had like a 6-hour layover once. I got to explore London a little bit more. I've been to Scotland.
Oh yeah, Scotland. That's where I'm going. I think I'm going to Edinburgh.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think I was there. We went to up into the Highlands, and I went to Wales for a day. So I just have to check Northern Ireland. Yeah.
Wow. Whereabouts in Wales? North or south? North or South Wales?
That's a good question. It was a place called Carleon. Okay, that was when we were in Somerset. So whatever.
Oh, so South Wales.
South Wales. Okay. Yeah, there was like Roman ruins that we went to go see. So that was super cool. Especially as an American, ruins are kind of just something you never encounter ever.
Oh yeah,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, that like there are a dime a dozen in Europe, but I find that so fascinating.
Yeah, of course. Wow. You need to come over again and see me. You'd like, I'd really love to meet you in person.
Sure. I'd love to come back.
Yeah, just hit me up whenever you're in the UK, and I'll just, especially if you're in Liverpool. If you come to Liverpool, obviously, because like.
Liverpool? No, I haven't. I've been to where was I've been to Bath.
Bath.
That's
down south.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you ever come, because Liverpool's like Beatlemania. There's literally, we have a Beatles museum, we have Beatles merch, we have statues of the Beatles on the front.
Okay.
So yeah, if you're interested, I mean, I had a friend come over from Italy last summer, so we took him around Liverpool, and then he ended up coming to our hometown. So I was like, yeah, that's cool.
Awesome.
So yeah. Anyways, let's talk about Miles from Tomorrow. You were Commander Nemex.
I was.
How long ago was this? Was this only recently?
This was pretty recently. This was probably also like within the last 2 years. And that was my first villain role.
Oh, he's a villain.
It was a villain, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
How does he sound?
So basically, it was just me kind of doing a slightly, well, because there's two basically. There's him without the mask and him with the mask, and he's kind of a villain in disguise. So like, you don't realize it. So one of them was just basically my normal voice, and then the other one was me pitching it way down with like a kind of a Darth Vader-esque voice changer. So that was really fun. That was again in Burbank. That was all solo recordings, so they kind of plugged me in. I think it was into the second season, so like I never met any of the other people there. Wasn't quite sure what the main storyline is because they only gave me the scripts that I was in. But that was like a really nice role, especially considering it's for children's stuff and it was decently complex. I'd love to do something like that again. That was really fun.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm still just jealous you guys go to Burbank and everywhere. I only just stay up here in England. Depressing. # depressed. That's just reminded me another good question, right? I know this is like picking your favorite child. I ask everyone this. I know. I'm sorry. What's your favorite role that you've done?
My favorite role that I've done. Okay. I'll be honest with you. Probably Nemex.
Really? I thought you were gonna say like Cody or someone like that.
I mean, okay, so if we're going in terms of like memories and stuff, obviously, if we're going in terms of like best experience overall, I'd say it's Cody. But in terms of the most interesting role personally, I would say Nemex.
That's two good choices.
Yeah. And you know what? It felt very like age appropriate because when I was playing Cody, I was more or less his age. And then once I finished Rescue Bots, I was like, well, do I keep playing kids now? I don't know. And I haven't played a kid in a while. And that was my thing. Like I would always play kids and stuff. Because kids are in relative short supply here. There's a lot of women that can do those roles and do them probably better than us, as you've seen with Tara Strong. But with Nemex, it felt like a graduation almost. Like I was stepping into another type of role, stepping into another age range, stepping into a new set of possibilities that was really fun to explore.
Yeah, that sounds great. So about your voiceover roles, do you have any funny recording booth session like memories, like maybe from Rescue Bots? Have you got any funny stories from behind the scenes or anything like that?
I think there were a lot of hiccup stories. I remember there was one. This was just Ginny and I, but this would have sucked if there were multiple people. But like I could not get through anything because I was hiccuping with everything, and they had to. What did they do? I think they had like I think we just rescheduled the session because I was like I could not get through a single word. Yeah, and that was one of the ones where there were like a lot of lines too. And that's the only time I had to like reschedule. I felt so bad, That's the only time I've had to reschedule, but I think it was just because like I just like drank too much water way too fast right
Aw.
before, and I had had a bunch of Twixes too, so I was kind of like fired up when I got in. Yeah, thankfully, like that's like the worst thing I could say that's happened. Most of the like antics and stuff are when you get the big group together. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty smooth running except for that one time. Occasionally you'd have like, you ever get like, not fixated, but you get kind of caught up on a certain word,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, that word a lot of the time was thanks. That was a word I had to say a lot. And you say it 3 times, right? You give him 3 different, that was how Jenny would always do it. Give me 3.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then we'll take it from there. If we like
Ollie
it,
Burr was a bit like that as well, even though it was
Yeah.
about 20 takes of the same line.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that's what ended up happening. I remember my count was probably over 30 for something like thanks,
Mhm.
because you say it 3 times, then you say it 3 more times, then you say it 3 more times, and then it stops becoming a word and it becomes a sound. And then you try to say it and it doesn't sound natural anymore. And it's just like the most natural word there is, right?
Yeah.
So that would happen sometimes, but for the most part, it was pretty smooth sailing.
I see. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It does sound like a word, but then if I just kept saying
Right?
thanks,
It's like yeah, that's what happens when you say something enough times, I guess.
Oh yeah, indeed. Are you still voice acting these days?
I am. These days I'm doing mostly ADR.
Oh yeah. That's after you just reminded me. I'm going to ask you about ADR in a minute.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I almost am inclined to think I may enjoy it more.
Oh.
Yeah, because it feels. I mean, you're basically just doing improv for a day. You know that. I mean, that's how long it usually is. For if you're ADRing a movie, the sessions are really long, but they're gratifying. I think you feel like you've put in a day's work at the end.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically just ADRing. You're improving, but you're trying to like steer clear of the jokes,
Mhm.
which almost becomes funny in and of itself. And so normally they're really fun, but the way I phrase it is like you're doing a study in banality, right? You're trying to be boring. And that, of course, is the most interesting that's the most interesting thing there is, because you're going to discover so many things. And the other thing I really like about ADR is the community aspect. Like you record by yourself, and it's still fun. You'll do it pretty quickly. With this stuff, though, you get to talk to people. You get to, meet some of these people afterwards, and you can like actually hang out. And it is such a small relative to the rest of the voiceover world. The ADR world is like so restrictive, small, and you see people over and over again. So I would say like a community feel in it that I haven't seen with other gigs necessarily. You see the same faces and you get to like really know people.
Yeah. Let's just crank it back to about, let's say, 15 to 14 years ago. How did you get into acting?
How did I get into acting? Yeah, okay, yeah, you got the chronology pretty right.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. My first job was when I was 5.
I was going to ask you what your first job was.
Yeah, so my first job was for, what is it called? I'm blanking on the name. South Park.
Oh, yes, you're a young Kyle.
I was a baby Kyle, yeah, in like a preschool scene. So that was my first gig, and I don't think I had an agent at that point. I'm not quite sure how that happened. My parents are actors, so they...
Oh, are they?
Yeah, so I think they just started...
I didn't know that.
I expressed an interest in that at a young age because, of course, I wanted to do, my parents did. They seemed to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I started submitting, I couldn't read, so my mom was submitting. But that was the first one that came through, and I couldn't even read at that point, as I said. So I think they just like read me the lines and had me repeat them. Mm-hmm. And I was like standing on a stool too, because I was really small at that point.
Oh.
I couldn't even like reach the top of the microphone. You can like lower it quite a ways, but it still wouldn't reach me. So, yeah, so I was standing on a stool, and they would just read me the lines, and I would repeat them. And I think with that, that's how I got representation afterward, which is a lot easier than self-submissions and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still remember that pretty well. That was, again, just like me in the booth and stuff. But and I wasn't allowed to watch it. That's the thing.
Yes.
They were like, no, it's an adult show, you can't watch it. And I think to this day I still haven't seen it. I've had other people tell me that they've seen it, which is great. But yeah, that was my first gig.
I remember, yes. I think Trey Parker's daughter did voices for Ike. I think that's well, I can't remember whose brother he is. Is it Kyle? I know, I'm probably thinking. I don't know. I haven't watched South Park before much. But I know Trey's daughter did Ike's voice in one episode, and she had to say the word female dog.
Sure.
But so then she was saying that, but obviously she's not allowed to watch it, and I don't know because obviously these young child actors have to swear in these things. So did you have to swear in any of your lines?
I think I did.
Oh,
I think that may have been why I wasn't allowed to watch it, and of course I wouldn't have known what that meant at that point.
Oh yeah, most likely. Of course.
Yeah, probably good. I don't started saying that, but yeah, I'm pretty sure we did have to swear.
Well, that's fine. I was completely gonna say, I was like, so you didn't know what that was then, or did you like, I don't know, you didn't question it or anything like that?
No, I just kind of went in and did the job and left and stuff. I was 5. I really did not have like a self-conception at that point, so I wasn't really in the right headspace to question it.
Just moving back onto Rescue Bots. Did you ever get recognized for any of your roles in school? Did anyone ever say, "Oh yeah, you played Cody Burns" or anything like that?
I kind of unwittingly, yeah. I mean, because it's not the kind of thing where you go, "Oh, I hear the voice," and you connect it. Oh, wait, is that the guy I go to school with? That stuff never happens because most people can't connect it. It did happen sometimes though, where I don't know how people would find the IMDb. Yeah, I don't even know. How would you even go about doing that? Yeah, but sometimes people would find the IMDb, and then they would tell other people. And so I remember one day, this was in, I think 7th or 8th grade. I come into the science classroom, and there's all these people start coming up and start asking for my autograph. And I'm pretty sure these were people that like didn't even see the show. They just like heard that I was in a show. And they're like, "Oh, that's so cool! That's so cool! That's so cool!" And I'm like, "Guys, we live in LA. That's not like that uncommon." But yeah, they were like asking for autographs and stuff. And occasionally that would happen, like because I transferred schools a few times, and usually that would happen when I would go to a new place. But yeah, it wasn't so much people connecting the dots on their own as like finding the IMDb page somehow, and then someone would tell them, and then it just spreads.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I mean, LA's like basically the golden place for acting. I mean, like, if I think of a person who lives in LA, he's just a normal person who goes about, there's just an actual job, let's say, like a business, like an office person. I think every single person who lives in LA is an actor. Like, it's not just got ordinary people in it. It's just like half and half. I just think everyone who lives is an actor. Oh yeah, you live in LA. Oh, you must be a voice actor. Oh yeah, you must be an actor.
Sure, and it does. I think like that has an effect even on people who aren't actors. And that's why I like to say, I'm not in LA because I'm an actor. I'm an actor because I'm in LA. Like being born here, being surrounded by this kind of stuff, it's very difficult not to get drawn in even if it's just a small degree, even if it's just like, oh, I'm going to go do improv later. It's so hard to like be here with this kind of kinesis and not have it have an effect on you.
Yeah, of course. Let's talk about ADR. I saw on your IMDb you've done ADR for a few films. I just wanted to ask about Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I didn't even know you did ADR for that film. What did you have to do for that?
So most of the ADR I have, because I don't like update my IMDb. I haven't updated my IMDb in a long time. So most of my ADR stuff isn't even on there. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Okay, what did that? So basically, with like high school movies like that,
yeah,
they would have, like I said, it's a very small group of people, and when it's kids, it's an even smaller group of people, because that's something that they really don't bring in like women to do. They prefer actual kids.
Yeah.
So that's something you really see a lot of people over and over again, which is cool. You get tight.
Yeah.
But for like high school movies like that, usually it's hallway scenes, it's classroom scenes. Like a very common shot would be school starting and the cars are pulling up and people are getting out.
Yeah.
So basically, since those people aren't allowed to talk, since they're extras, they can't talk, that would switch their contract to something else. They bring in us, and the rationale is, well, we could either have like 100, 200 people, bump them up to regular actors, or we could make them extras and we could just bring in 10 people to do all of those voices. So that's what we're doing. We're filling in all the conversation. Sometimes it'll be someone specific. They'll have a laser pointer and a huge screen, and they'll go, okay, do that person, see those two people talking, you do that. But yeah, normally it's just any type of crowd scene, even if it's just one person in the background, think stuff you wouldn't really think about. The sound editors are on that and they have notes and they go, we need someone to fill that in. So we'll either go up individually, we'll do what's called a donut, where we circle around and we pass the mic. We'll do something called a pass, where we'll come in pairs and just like walk past the mic and say something and keep walking. Or the really fun ones, because those studios are usually pretty big. So we'll fill up the whole room and just like walk around the room and just kind of, sometimes we're just talking to ourselves, especially with like a lot of the COVID protocols now. We'll be in a booth by ourselves. We're just talking to ourselves for like 8 hours. And like that's what work is like. I love how like someone does this, right? This is so cool.
Yeah, you must be over the moon to have a job like this.
And what's also cool about it is it's not like intuitive. If I were to watch a movie as a layman, I wouldn't go like, oh, they probably have people to record that, right? I would just go, no, it's probably the extras talking. And after doing it for this long, you do kind of have a sense of like, I can tell when people are doing ADR in a movie. I can tell when a crowd scene is like real and when it's not, you know?
Yeah, of course. Every time someone mentions ADR, I usually think it's either like background noises like classrooms or crowds or anything like that, or they're just kind of scratch tracks for like the main characters just to like record in place. But that's usually like animated shows and like.
Well, I have done a couple of that like super targeted stuff. Sometimes you'll replace a line for a character. I've done that for TV. I did like some stuff for True Blood where they just, for whatever reason, didn't like this kid's voice. So they had me come in, and that's a lot more specialized because you have to like match their lip movement.
Yeah.
So you'll spend like an hour maybe just on one scene trying to like really, and that's, you got to be super precise with that. But again, I really enjoy that too. It's a fun challenge.
That's so cool. We've only got like 5 minutes left. Well, obviously I don't need to go, but I like to keep my interviews sort of like 45 minutes. A nice way to wrap up this interview is, now you're probably the youngest guest. I know you're 22. You're probably the youngest guest I've had on the show as of the 2nd of June, 2021. Okay. So I was wondering, what would you say to someone out there like me who was trying to become a voice actress, who was, well, I'm nearly your age now. I've only got like 5 years to go. But what would you say? What would you say to someone?
Like as advice?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is going to sound really weird and people are going to think you're crazy. I would say talk to yourself a lot.
I do that all the time.
You do that all the time? Okay,
yes.
So you're practicing. And so basically the way I started, the way that the reason I drifted towards voice acting as opposed to like on camera stuff is when I was a kid, I would have my action figures. I'd be in the bathtub playing with them and I would give them voices. And I don't do that with action figures anymore, but I still kind of do the same thing. So I'll go for walks. You probably should kind of go in a secluded place because, again, you don't want to alarm people. Go for a long walk and just have a conversation with yourself and see how many characters you can cram into a dialogue. Something that I do now a lot, that I would, again, say for anyone interested in this, just to develop your own voice. Are you into reading?
Pardon?
Like, are you into reading? Like books and stuff?
Yeah, sometimes.
I would say, and it feels weird the first few times you do it, I would say read those aloud to yourself. And then while you're reading, switch up the accent. Give every character a different voice. Go low, go high, change your pitch around, change your intonation. That's going to give you a lot of practice, just building up an arsenal of characters that you can use. So that would be my advice, I think.
I think that's really good advice. And I'll try and follow that as well.
Yeah, and it's 100% free, you know?
Yeah, I want to go for a walk now, but it's starting to get dark outside. And also, if I started talking to myself at night and there's people about, they're like, oh no, she's crazy. Get her in the van. Get her. No, she can't be out. She's too dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow. That was such a lovely conversation. As I say to people, it's not an interview, it's more of a conversation, hence the name, in conversation with ATF.
Yeah, and you have a natural affinity for this sort of stuff, so keep going.
Thank you, Elan.
Yeah.
I really
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Now, this will be the fake outro. This will be, and then I'll probably say goodbye. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Elan, yes, it's been lovely talking to you. Whereabouts can we find you online? Okay.
It's been. Do you mean like Instagram handles?
Yeah. Do you have any social media handles, websites?
Sure. Yeah. So the nice thing about having a name as weird as mine is I can just use my name for my handles. So it's just my name, ELAN Garfias. I'm on there on Instagram. I'm there on Twitter. Not that I use it, but yeah, it's just my name wherever.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And I follow you on Instagram, and obviously
You do?
that's
Yeah,
how we
yeah.
came to the
Thank you.
interview.
Okay.
You're welcome. Fake outro. Anyways, guys, thank you so much
Yeah.
for watching this interview. This has been amazing just to talk to Elan, and that was so much fun. Not gonna lie.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great. At home, to those of you at home, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in another episode if you choose to keep watching.
Definitely.
Thank you for watching. I will see you around. Bye! And cut.